if I'm in frame.
Yeah, we can adjust it. I think we're muted, but I don't really know for sure. I don't know where we get this from.
What are you trying to get?
This link.
Oh. The
Okay. Where do you think it is?
Oh, never mind. There's people waiting. I gotta get this plugged in because it's not gonna last the whole time. Ready to go.
Okay. Here, I'll get it for you. That's why I need the doesn't count. That's okay. It's a lot of time. Okay. Gotta figure out how to share that though.
I don't know. There's people waiting.
I know, but I told everybody that I was gonna post a thing for it. So, what the hell? I guess I go to YouTube. Here. There we go. Get your mic where you want it. You can talk a little bit more directly into it if you want to with this fancy new thing. Test, test, test.
Test.
Okay. Get closer to you. You want to be like right up on that mesh. Okay. Switching us over.
Okay.
Hello!
Hello.
We do not do a lot of live streaming, so this is kind of weird.
We'll get it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us, everybody. Should we just dive in, Garrett? We got a lot of questions.
We do, yeah. So I'm going to pull up. We had some existing questions to go through. So we're going to start with the ones that our patrons asked us in advance. Oh, we should say, too, the reason we're doing this is because we reached a milestone on our Patreon with 200 people joining.
Yeah.
So thank you to everybody who joined and got us to this milestone. Obviously, we wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't for our patrons.
Mhm.
So thank you all very much for your support.
Yeah. Very happy to be here.
Yes. Okay. Just adjusting things so we could see everything at once. Because there's like comments section and all this different stuff. So very good. I think we're in good shape. All right. So our first question comes from, let's see, Tyrant King, which is, how did you two meet? Which was at college. We met at a party.
Mm-hmm.
We went to UC Santa Barbara in Santa Barbara, California. And yeah,
Yep.
we
Kind of became friends instantly, or started dating right away.
pretty much, there was nothing about dinosaurs. The
Right.
first topic we discussed was foosball, because we were playing foosball. And then we started talking about basketball.
Right.
And then like 5 years later, we found out we both like dinosaurs. Or maybe 2 years.
2 or 3 years later. That's when we lived near the American Museum of Natural History, so we were going there all the time and kind of rediscovered our love of dinosaurs.
Yep. So I think that covered all those. Oh, when we decided to start the dinosaur podcast, we had a dinosaur themed wedding, which is this picture behind us. That's us. That's the dinosaur theme. A guy in a T-Rex costume. And
Duncan the T-Rex.
That was at the Santa Barbara Zoo, by the way, near where we met. And I listened to a lot of podcasts. Sabrina listened to some too. And there weren't any dinosaur-themed podcasts at the time, so we decided to create one. And I guess the rest is history.
No weekly ones, anyway, that were specifically for dinosaurs.
Nothing that was keeping up with the discoveries at a pace that seemed fast enough for me, at least. Yeah. All right, so Paleo Mike asks us, do you remember the moment you realized your mutual love of dinosaurs? Do you remember?
We were probably at the American Museum of Natural History.
Yes.
In the dinosaur hall.
Yeah, so after we graduated, we moved over to New Jersey because Sabrina was going to NYU for grad school, and we went to the American Museum of Natural History all the time because it is an amazing place, and we found out that we both love dinosaurs because we always both wanted to be in the dinosaur hall the whole time, and yeah, so that's when we realized.
I don't know if there was a specific moment, but sort of over time going to this museum a lot.
Yeah, and then after that, we decided to make a dinosaur-themed website. So that's where the name I Know Dino came from. Was we were looking for a URL that was available, and if you use words that are in the dictionary, URLs are often more expensive because they're like, that's a premium URL. So dinosaur was either already taken everywhere or just really expensive. So ended up using Dino, and then I know Dino.
Has a nice rhyme to it.
It does, and it was available. So it became our URL.
I think that was a later question.
Yeah, but we didn't talk about the website.
Oh,
so,
okay.
Anyway.
Well, the website, which was the dinosaur museum map, mostly, yeah.
Yeah, we did some blog posts and stuff too. So, what dinosaur-themed trips are on your bucket list? Asked by Weiser. And I have a lot of dinosaur-themed trips I would like to do. So, in terms of museums, because we usually go to museums, we're not cut out for digging. I'm too pale. I burn real bad.
We went on a dig once, and I was particularly bad at it. They did like what would you call it?
It was like a test.
A test, yeah, in the beginning, just to see, what we learned from the day. And I couldn't find the bone that was right in front of me. I kept mistaking it for rock. They asked me if I was colorblind.
Yeah. It was not a very auspicious start. So, yeah. We stick to the museums when other people have already prepared it.
We did enjoy digging.
Yeah.
Found a piece of eggshell. That was cool.
Yeah. So mostly our dinosaur-themed trips are like to museums and to see paleontologists and to see prepared fossils. So to me, the most exciting ones are probably European museums that I haven't been to, because we've been to most of the museums in Australia and a lot of the biggest ones in the US and Canada.
Well, we've talked about the wall of footprints in Bolivia.
Oh, yeah, that would be cool. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's some track sites that would be really awesome. But, yeah, so there's the Berlin Natural History Museum would be great because they've got the original Archaeopteryx and, like, a couple other Archaeopteryx things. There is Trix, which is after Bellatrix. Is that? I'm trying to remember which country that is. It's either the Netherlands. I think it's the Netherlands. Hopefully I'm right about that. So I'd like to go to that one. Fortunately, we did make it to the Natural History Museum in London. That one had been on my bucket list for a long time. And then there's a bunch in China, and there's a bunch in South America, and yeah.
There's a lot.
It would also be cool to go to Antarctica sometime, because they got dinosaurs too. And then the other question, would you ever want to go on a real-life expedition? So, maybe.
A real field expedition?
Yeah, we did do that one dig, and that was nice. But, yeah, we weren't great at it.
We might do it again.
Yeah, it would be cool to, like, follow around some paleontologists and cover it as journalists. That would be kind of fun. I could go for that. So then Noctum Von Doom asked, has there ever been a time in either of your lives where you seriously considered going into paleontology as a profession? And if so, what changed your mind? And I would say I didn't. Maybe when I was really little, I thought about it. That would probably be my guess. But then we didn't really, neither of us were really super into dinosaurs as teenagers. So that sort of fell off the map when we were in the pick your major in college sort of time frame. And so what changed our mind, I guess, was like shifting interests, I would say. But now I would say is probably the time I've most considered going into paleontology because...
Oh, yeah, we've both thought about it.
Yeah, because we spend so much time reading papers all the time. And yeah, it just seems like that would be kind of nice to have that extra credential to go along with all the reading we do and everything. So, yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, but it is a ton of work. And if you're not going to use the PhD to actually do research, it seems a little bit like a waste of money. So, probably not going to do it. But maybe.
For now, we enjoy talking to the paleontologists.
Yeah, being science journalists / communicators is the way to go. So, a follow-up to that is if time, money, distance weren't an issue, what dinosaur museum is at the top of your list to visit that you haven't already been to and why? I think we already pretty well talked about that. I would say Berlin, probably. Do you have a very top of list choice?
I don't think so, but I have been thinking about Bolivia a lot lately.
I think IVPP would be really good too, the Institute of Vertebrate Paleontology and Paleoanthropology in Beijing. We hear stories. There was somebody at the Society of Vertebrate Paleontology who said they spent like a month in the basement with like 70 fossilized birds that all have preserved feathers and stuff. So especially if we could get behind the scenes there and
well, if time, money, and distance weren't an issue, could we just say, how about a trip around the world?
to see all of them?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Favorite museum we've been to? Man, it is so hard to choose because they kind of come in two categories. There's the category of small museum that really focuses and has really passionate people from that area and like just tons of detail about the dinosaurs from that fauna that I love. And then I also really like the really big museums that include tons of stuff.
So what's the big museum one?
I might, so if I had to pick one, I'd probably go with, I'm just coming up with this right now, but maybe the Fukui Prefecture Dinosaur Museum.
Oh, yeah, that's
because it's sort of both. It's really big, and it also is like on a dinosaur dig site practically, because Fukui has all these dinosaurs. So, but they also include tons of replicas of dinosaurs from all over the world, and I think quite a few fossils that they've gathered in like Korea and probably Mongolia and stuff, because they a lot of times are included on expeditions outside of Japan. And they have a huge animatronic T-Rex, which is like super Japanese, high-tech, awesome.
They have a few animatronic dinosaurs.
Yeah, but you see that T-Rex right when you come in, and it's like, oh my god, yeah. So I think that one would probably be my number one. What do you think?
I'm trying to think of the smaller museums that we've been to.
I liked Aramanga. Oh
yeah, that was good.
That's sort of the quintessential in a dinosaur fauna, because there's very little else going on in Aramanga other than the dinosaur museum.
Black Hills always stands out to me because we learned that it used to be a middle school gymnasium, and it was just jam-packed with fossils.
Yeah. Oh, actually, yeah, another super good one, maybe even better than Fukui, is the Royal Tyrrell Museum. That's sort of like dinosaur mecca, because it's also right in the middle of a dinosaur dig site, and it has Borealopelta.
Right, and your Drumheller, which is just a bunch of dinosaurs everywhere.
Yeah, so that one might be a little bit better. It's more of an adventure. They're both a big adventure to get to, but getting to Fukui is amazing because you go on this little tiny train that's like a one-track thing, and it feels like you're going into like Disneyland.
Oh, yeah, it's very scenic.
Yeah.
Very pretty.
Yeah, so both of those, I guess, would be the top. We also love the American Museum of Natural History, obviously, because that's where we rekindled our passion for dinosaurs. So... yeah. All right. I think we've probably talked enough about that question. So okay. If you could de-extinct one dinosaur, which one would you choose? So
Might have to go with my favorite, Brontosaurus. I want to see what it really looked like. Although I was thinking about this, and like maybe I wouldn't because that might be too big and cause some issues.
Yeah, it was like we need a follow-up question here of like, are we de-extincting it back into nature, or is this like you just put it somewhere temporarily and you get to learn about what it is? Because there are different versions of de-extinction. I've gone down that rabbit hole before. If you're de-extincting the actual animal and it's not gonna destroy nature, I think I might go with T-Rex actually, because as much as I love Ankylosaurus, I feel like we have a pretty good grasp on what it looked like, and its behavior is kind of obvious because it's a plant eater, and maybe they were in groups, maybe they weren't, but other than that, it's like, yeah, I don't know. And then, but with T-Rex, there's so many questions everybody has, and I think we even have some questions here like, feathers,
Lips.
Did they care for their young? How did they behave differently as juveniles versus adults? There's so many, with the carnivores, there's so much more complexity to their behavior, especially the smart ones. Or like a troodontid, to see how intelligent it was. If we could train it like a crow, was it really that smart? That kind of stuff, I think, would be really interesting. So I think I'd go with some sort of predator, probably T-Rex, just because.
We'd have to feed a T-Rex a lot of meat, though. Yes, very true.
Yeah. But it would be so many people would want to come see that T-Rex. I don't think it would be difficult to raise the money for the food. I think that would be the least of your problems.
There you go. If a question doesn't send Garrett into a mini rant, I won't be happy. I think there's a good chance here.
Yeah,
Or just catching up on comments. We'll get to those questions in the comments in a little bit because we've got the ones from earlier.
Our backlog to get through first.
But yeah, yep, we are definitely lucky. We have a lot of natural history museums here.
Yeah, although we're in California, which is sort of the farthest part in the country from dinosaur museums, I would say. I mean, we have a couple here. We have the LA Natural History Museum's really good. In the Bay Area, we don't have any dinosaur-specific museums with like a public exhibit space. But yeah, especially on like the East Coast, or if you're in like Utah, oh my God, there's so much good stuff. It's crazy. So Noctum Von Doom asks us, if you were to go into vertebrate paleontology professionally, what aspect of that job would you be interested in the most? And that is either fieldwork, preparation, curating, anatomical reconstruction, etc.
I think I might enjoy the preparation part. I know it takes a long time, and you have to be very careful. But anytime we've gone to the museums, when they have the volunteers who are out there and and you can see what people are working on, it's just so cool.
Yeah, it is awesome. And I don't know for myself. I think I would probably go with like I don't even know if it's listed here because it's more boring than all of these, but like the statistical analyses, basically. I like it when people really dig into the old questions, like how Matt Barron went back and went like, is it really Ornithischia and Saurischia, or should they be grouped differently than we've been looking at for all these years? And I just love those questions. I love those where you get into it and you really analyze something really in depth, or you go in and it's like hadrosaurs. Let's just clear up the whole phylogeny and become like the world expert on it. I love that. I'd end up doing something like that, I think. And I've got a knack for statistics more than these other things, so yeah. So next up we got Moss Utah Raptor asks us, I know we are all here for the dinosaurs, but do you have a favorite extinct fossil or maybe a mammal or aquatic reptile? So I have a lot of favorite things. And
Garrett took a while to think about this one.
Yes. So the impetus for the dinosaur podcast is it's also a big overlap of our interests, because Sabrina is very interested in journalism and lots of science things, and I'm super interested in tons of stuff. I mean, I get into anything. So
that's how he ends up down all those Rictodromius burrows or rabbit holes.
Yeah, geology, any topic I can get pretty deep into. So I would say in sea creatures, Megalodon obviously would be amazing to see. I can't imagine. I've always been terrified of sharks, but also super fascinated by them. So I would love to see what a megalodon was all about. Plesiosaurs also are super cool. They got those 4 fins, and it seems when at like first blush people figured, oh, they like rode like they're on a boat, but really they think they did this crazy like loopy swim thing, sort of like how in water polo you do the egg beater to stay afloat, like with the more swishy circle motion, sort of in that range. They think that's how plesiosaur fins moved, so that I'd love that. I want to see how that works. Also, glyptodonts are super cool because they're just like ankylosaurs, but they just went extinct recently. And terror birds, which are basically dinosaurs, but, you know, they're birds. And huge and ferocious and ate mammals. And yeah, just there's so many other things. Lots of bats, too.
For me, it's pterosaurs. Like, Quetzalcoatlus is so weird. And they're all weird. And so large and so cool. And so intimidating when you see them in the museum displays.
Yeah. I
think that might be my bias, too, towards Petrie.
I do love how, what is it, Hategoteryx? I forget. It's something combining pterosaur and Hateg for Hateg Island. And they think that pterosaur was the apex predator on the island. Like, it swooped down. It was like a giant giraffe with a massive beak to, like, eat all the dinosaurs that were tiny on the island.
It'd be terrifying.
Yeah, that's obviously an awesome animal, though, so that's a good one. Good choice. Then Tyrant King asks us, if you could invite a paleontologist of the past onto your show, who would it be? And at first I was like, oh, a paleontologist. The paleontologist we really want to interview is Bob Bacher. He's like our number one guy. We actually had an opportunity to interview him, and we were like too intimidated. We were like, we don't have enough time to prepare. We can't do it. When we saw him in person one time, and we've
regretted it ever since.
We have regretted it. But so there is one living paleontologist who is very high on our list. But for not living paleontologists, I think Barnum Brown would be super cool to listen to. I mean, Cope and Marsh would be okay. Bone Wars, you know, they found all these dinosaurs, everything. But Barnum Brown actually did a lot of the discovering, and he sounded like the kind of guy you might enjoy talking to, whereas Cope and Marsh were just too much. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then also Roy Chapman Andrews for his Mongolia expeditions. And if you don't know who he is, Indiana Jones is basically him. So he's just like a crazy, interesting guy that went on these nuts expeditions. He like drove basically Model Ts into the Mongolian desert where even modern vehicles get stuck all the time. So it's the guy, yeah. He was ambitious. He would have been really interesting to
he found a lot of things.
Yeah, he discovered like Oviraptor and Velociraptor and like nests of eggs and all sorts of stuff. He's usually credited with being the first person to find dinosaur eggs, even though that's not true. But
he even admitted it wasn't him.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, speaking of like people that seem like they'd be fun to talk to, Charles Sternberg, based on his book, when I read it for the Bone Wars episode, he just seemed really down to earth and really just all about the fossil finding.
Yeah.
That was really cool. And then another one that's kind of book related is George Gaylord Simpson, who, I mean, he's a really big paleontologist, but he also wrote The Decolonization of Sam Magruder, it was published after he died, and I think that brought up a lot of questions because it's the whole premise is this guy in the future somehow gets transported in time to, I think, around the Cretaceous. I can't remember the exact period. And he has figured out how to write down his experiences. He knows he's never going to make it home, so he figures out how to write down his experiences so that his peers back in the future will someday find them when they're uncovering fossils. It's just a really interesting premise.
It is.
Yeah.
You can tell Sabrina loves books.
Yeah.
That, like, she works in, like, what author would you want to
Well, he's
interview?
also a paleontologist,
Yeah, I know.
so.
Yeah,
But you're right. Both of mine are based on books I read that they've written.
Yeah. I mean, that's part of the thing with Roy Chapman Andrews, too. He has a very famous, like, I guess, chronicle of his journeys into Mongolia, which is super famous. And I'd like to hear more details. All right. Butts McGee asks us, what's your stance on T-Rex lips? And I would say I think they're probable. Like, because, so a little background. T-Rex, it's got the teeth sticking out in most of the paleo art. And then recently some people are like, wait a second, animals don't have teeth sticking out of their mouth. They have lips to cover their teeth, because if you just have your teeth out in the air, the enamel wears down pretty quickly.
Dries out,
it cracks, it becomes more fragile. The reason that crocodilians have their teeth sticking out is because they're in water, so lips don't matter as much and they stay moist just from the water that they're in, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that it makes sense. That logic tracks for me. The problem is, and there's a lot of modern lizards and analogs to dinosaurs that have teeth and they have lips around them. But their teeth are not even remotely as big as T-Rex. Some of their teeth, like in Komodo dragons, are practically still in their gum. They're very, very short teeth. So it's not the greatest analogy. And then the other big difference is that T-Rex went through teeth, like most dinosaurs did, pretty quickly. T-Rex was on the longer side. I think it had a tooth for around a year or two before it fell out and got replaced. Whereas some of the other dinosaurs, I'm trying to remember which one, is it a hadrosaur maybe? Some of them went through teeth as fast as like 30 days. They would get new teeth. So if you're going through teeth in 30 days, you don't need lips. It doesn't matter. You're replacing the tooth right away anyway. The reason to have a lip would be to keep the stuff in your mouth. So then it's more the functional other benefits of having lips that you would focus on. So for T-Rex, I don't know. It's sort of like right on the fence there, because if you're keeping the tooth for a year or two, is that too long for it to start to decay?
Is that part of the reason you want to de-extinct the T-Rex?
Yeah, exactly. That's one of the many questions.
Just take a look at your lips.
Yeah, exactly. It'll be the first thing you notice, unless it's big, puffy, covered in feathers. Then you'd notice that first.
Oh, probably the colors.
Yeah, and the colors. The colors would be really cool to see. Yeah. So, I don't know. I think lips are... The evidence, I think, leans towards lips, because they had their teeth for pretty long. I think, a year or two might be too long for them to... You wouldn't want them to be extra fragile from being out in the air for all that time. But who knows? We don't have any modern analogs. It's really hard to tell. And then follow-up question was, how about Triceratops and Torosaurus? So I tend to consider Torosaurus its own genus and Triceratops to be its own genus.
Now.
Yeah. I think it's weird that as Torosaurus, there isn't that big of a size difference between a large Triceratops and a Torosaurus, and it seems the holes forming in the frill and some of the other changes just seem a little bit late in development for me. But when we talked to John Scanelli, he was like, it's not that late. And when you look at the Triceratops, you can see the holes starting to open in the larger specimens. So, yeah, I don't know. It's another really hard question. I think I still lean towards Triceratops being its own and Torosaurus being its own, just because we have so few dinosaur genera compared with the amount of time that they were alive, that it seems like I just always err on the side of splitting, basically. Because if you look at modern animals, there are so many animals that their skeletons look nearly identical, and they look totally different in real life, when they still have their fleshy parts and feathers and other stuff on them, that it's like, yeah, why wouldn't there be more dinosaur genera? I don't know if Torosaurus is one of them, but yeah, I'm more of a splitter than a lumper.
I feel like you should get a name tag that says I'm a splitter.
Yeah. That's true. So Morgan Eklov asks us lots of good questions already. I don't know what to add, except, of course, the most important one. What's your favorite Pseudosuchian? And I had to look up again what a Pseudosuchian was, because, again, dinosaurs for the win. But I did know one off the top of my head, which is Postosuchus, because it's like, basically sounds like Pseudosuchian, Postosucha. Anyway, that one's awesome. The first time I saw a Postosuchus, I was like, that head looks remarkably like a T-Rex head. And that's so weird, because it's from the late Triassic, so it's like 150 million years before T-Rex, and it's not even a dinosaur. but it has this superficial similarity. Once you can find a lot of differences when you know what to look for, but superficially, when you see a picture of it, you're like, wow, that has a lot in common with a T-Rex. So it's like a T-Rex on like a crocodile body, but with like more of a dog sort of stance. It's like a quadruped, and it's just like such a crazy animal. And they think it was probably an apex predator, at least a predator of some report, some high taphonomic level. And then the other one that's really cool, I think counts, which is Desmatosuchus. And I didn't realize that until I was looking this up, but I think Adasaurs count as Pseudotsuchians, in which case Desmatosuchus and the other Adasaurs look a lot like Ankylosaurs. They have that same sort of low, turtley, armored body look to them with big spikes sticking out of them and all that kind of stuff. So since I love Ankylosaurs, I love Glyptodonts, I love Adasaurs, I love all of those things. I like turtles a lot too, especially tortoises.
We know you like turtles.
Yeah. Full of sauropods would stop squishing them. So then...
hold on, quick interjection. The sauropods aren't around anymore, but turtles are. What does that tell you?
That
something mischievous happened.
Or maybe it was like a karma finally caught up with the sauropods, and all the other dinosaurs got swept up in the mix.
Maybe. Well, no. Okay, next question.
Venezoic asked us, if it were to matter of science, which would you prefer, scales or feathers? And I think it depends on the dinosaur group, probably. But I think in general I prefer feathers, just because it
looks more fuzzy or more cute or something.
I think...
Well, no.
I guess I am making it a matter of science, but I like it as a sort of talking point. It makes for a very convenient way to show that dinosaurs are birds, or birds are dinosaurs. Some dinosaurs are birds. Anyway, it's a nice thing. It's a nice connection, and there's always room for more examples of evolution because there are still people that don't believe evolution, so that would be nice. But I also find it really interesting. Like I love the idea of a big fluffy Therizinosaurus with like the huge claws.
Just add to the weirdness.
Yeah, or Dinochirus. Yeah. All these extra weird, like you're saying, dinosaurs with feathers just seem extra like big bird.
Feathers or fuzz. I like the idea of dino fuzz.
Yeah, definitely. But I think like an ankylosaur with feathers would look dumb as a non-matter of science. I prefer them scaly and like hard on the outside looking.
Because it's meant to, we know the armor is meant to protect them. But what if the feathers were a sort of camouflage?
Yeah, but then you couldn't see all the cool osteoderms. So as a not matter of science, I prefer a scaly ankylosaur. All right. So then Butts McGee again asks, and Darkly Danny, and a bunch of letter JD Georges, I think, which is all about what our intro music is for the podcast. And the answer is, it's Dinosaur by More Giraffes, and they are fantastic. I highly recommend you check them out. So the title is just Dinosaur, and then the musician is More Giraffes. They are great.
The band, yeah.
Yeah, the band. They're in the UK. They make an awesome song. We heard it.
They're in LA.
Oh, they're in LA?
Yeah.
My bad. They're in LA. And we heard their song one time because we had like Google alerts for the word dinosaur, and when their song came out, it popped up in our news feed, and then we listened to it and we're like, oh, this is catchy. And there aren't that many dinosaur songs that are not just like cheesy kid sounding songs, but this one was great, and we were looking for a new...
Well, we'd gotten a lot of feedback that we needed to change our intro and outro.
Yeah, a lot of people are not big fans.
Which was fair. It was, it didn't really match the tone of the show, I think.
Yeah, people, I think, correctly described it as sounding like...
Monster Truck Rally.
Exactly. Yeah. It was very awesome, fantastical. A lot of hyperbole sound to it. So, yeah, I like the tone of Dinosaur by More Giraffes. It's a good song. The rest of the song is not entirely about dinosaurs. It's not like a really paleo nerd song, but I like the
that they sing the word dinosaur.
Yeah, and the way they sing it and the style of the music is all great. So, yeah, excellent song. More Giraffes did a great job. Then Paul asks us why I know and not we know for I know Dino versus we know Dino. So I know is more rhymey because it's like I know and Dino. It's got like
It did seem
multiple syllables.
A little easier to say.
Yeah.
Rolls off the tongue.
It does. Also, I think it works better on a shirt because I got this shirt that one of our listeners designed in our contest. You can't see Sabrina's.
I'm too short,
but I know Dino works way better on a shirt than we know Dino because it's like, who's this we? It's just you in the shirt. Unless I guess there's more than one person in the shirt, that could happen. But yeah, that's sort of a retroactive reason. But yeah, anyway, that's why, because it rhymes. Yuan asked us if you could safely go back to any point during the Mesozoic to see what it was like and observe the animals and environment, but you only get one round trip, where would you go and why? So they said that their answer is the Hell Creek 67 million years ago, and torn between that and the Kem-Kem.
Both good choices.
Those are very good choices. My answer is definitely also the Hell Creek. Like I was already talking about, I want to know what T-Rex looked like because there's so many questions, so many scientific debates about it. You could even see if there was a Nanotyrannus around. I'm pretty sure you wouldn't be able to tell because unless you stayed there for like a few years and watched the Nanotyrannus grow to see if it grew up into an adult. But if you saw what looked clearly like a Nanotyrannus and it was in a family unit with an adult T-Rex, I guess that would quickly, hopefully, answer the question. But also that's where Ankylosaurus is, and I would like to see that.
So, two birds.
Yeah.
Literally. Kind of.
Two dinos.
Two dinos, yeah. Two non-avian
dinosaurs. Yeah. And then, so that's definitely number one. But if I had to worry about getting eaten, I wouldn't go there because I don't want to get eaten by a T-Rex or Dakota Raptor or all these other scary monsters that were in the Hell Creek. I might go to the Tiaojishan Formation. That's the one in China that has Ichi and a lot of other little bird-like things, which I think would be awesome to see.
So all the really feathery ones?
Yeah, it would be really, and like we were saying before, the coloration would be really cool to see.
Oh, yeah.
And Ichi is a crazy one where like it's got its arm sticking out, and then it's got this rod coming out of its wrist, and they think that it sort of made a patagium in between its wrist, its crazy wrist bone, and its body sort of like a bat. But people really debate what angle that thing was at and what its wing looked like and if it was a glider or what was going on. So I'd like to see that. That would be really cool.
For me, it's the Morrison Formation because all the sauropods. But if it's possible to add a stop, I'd like to see all the island dwarf dinosaurs at the
Hattag Island?
Hattag Island, yeah, the formation. Oh, that'd be so cool.
As long as the Hattagopteryx doesn't fly down and eat you.
Yeah. And all these formations, you'll have to watch yourself. You're just a small mammal.
I think the small bird ecosystem, that was like a dense forest, presumably, might
probably be pretty safe.
Yeah. But maybe not.
Unless they band together like the Compies in Jurassic Park.
Yeah. Or there is a huge predator. There were like some larger dinosaurs there, and there probably was a bigger one too that we just haven't found a fossil of yet that I would just get eaten by because I wasn't prepared. All right. So from James and Adrian, they asked, is a raptor as fast as a cheetah? And I would say no, but it's with the caveat of you can't really tell how fast a dinosaur was 100% because we don't know exactly what their muscles were like. We can't see trackways of them at their maximum speed. Most of the trackways we have of dinosaurs are of them just leisurely walking at the lowest energy condition because that's what animals do most of the time, and not a full sprint, just like a cheetah. Most of the time they're just walking around or laying around. They're not sprinting full out. But we do have a record of a raptor running presumably near its maximum speed because the modeling that we've done, we think, puts their maximum speed in the 40 kilometer an hour ballpark, and we found a trackway that was at 38 kilometers an hour or 23 miles an hour of a dromaeosaurid in South Korea. And so that's probably about as fast as they ran, which is obviously quite a bit slower than a cheetah. So I would say no. They couldn't run as fast. But that is almost as fast as like the fastest Olympic sprinters. So it's plenty fast to be worried about, if that's the question.
I was thinking endurance-wise, a raptor might beat a cheetah.
Oh, true, yeah. Sort of like cheetahs lose all the time to the prey they're chasing because they can only go in short bursts. Yeah, and there is a benefit to being bipedal for endurance versus quadrupedal, and so, yeah, they're bipedal, so they can probably maybe run a little longer. I don't know. See.
We'll have to travel back in time and watch them.
Yeah, that's the only way to know. They also asked, how can egg color be determined? So there's basically two things that you can learn that from. There is the melanosomes, which fossilize, and those are the pigment-making organelles in most things. In dinosaurs, I think the melanosomes, or with regards to eggshells, would be within the mother when it's forming the egg. So you could see fossilized melanosomes in like near where the egg formed in the mother, and then presumably figure it out from there. Or sometimes you can find traces of pigments, and sometimes they do like laser fluorescence, and you can see essentially color patterns or like distant, vague colorishness about the eggs. So that's the best we can do when it comes to eggs.
For now.
Yeah, that's true. Then also, how many teeth does a T-Rex have? And the answer is roughly 60 in total. So that's all of the top teeth, all of the bottom teeth. When people are talking about T-Rex, though, it's kind of interesting. Usually they talk about one side of the, I guess the dentary is usually what they're looking at. And then, so you just count, because it's all symmetric. And then what you see is that it actually goes down as they get older. They have more teeth, but smaller teeth when they're younger, and then the teeth get bigger and fewer in number as they get older. So it does vary. And that's one of the things that was about Nanotyrannus. It has more teeth. And then people are like, wait a second. If you look at all these T-Rex, the biggest ones have fewer teeth. So if you just extrapolate that, Nanotyrannus has a number of teeth that seems reasonable. So, yeah. And then, let's see what else we got here. Is a raptor the smallest dinosaur?
Smartest dinosaur.
Oh, smartest dinosaur. Oh, man, I read it as smallest. So I'm going to answer smallest, because I went down a rabbit hole of figuring out which dinosaur was the smallest.
Okay, we'll start there.
Even though no one asked this question. So,
there we go. We got the rabbit hole.
this was actually the rabbit hole. That's why we're doing this one last. And then we're going to switch over to questions people asked us in the chat. So, Microraptor is very small. And when I talk about smallest, I'm always going by weight. Because, like we were talking about with feathers, they don't always preserve. And, yeah, something could be a little puffball. And you'd be like, oh, that looks bigger than this thing that doesn't have any fuzz on it. But, that's weight is the way to go. So, Microraptor is really small, but the smallest briefly was Oculudentavis. Then we found out that's not a dinosaur, it's probably basically a gecko, or a gecko-like lizard that got stuck in amber. So, anyway, maybe it's, well, technically I should say, it's the bee hummingbird, which weighs about 2 grams, because again, birds are dinosaurs. So, there you go. But if you're talking about non-avian dinosaurs, which is probably what they want to know, because we don't talk about birds that much, it would probably be Parvicursor, which is a tiny alvarosaurid. It's like a little theropod with the little tiny arms. It's like it basically doesn't even have arms, and that, like, it's got just enough arm to get its claws in position, and it essentially has no hands. It just has like the bone of the hand, one hand bone to get to one claw bone. The weirdest animals, but they shrink way down. They get super tiny, and they are nothing like a bird, obviously, because there's no way these are wings, these little tiny claws. Whereas most of the other really small animals like Microraptor and stuff are basically birds. And then if you're going to include Microraptor, it's like, well, why not include the smallest Mesozoic bird at that point? And then there's all sorts of stuff. So I would say Parvicursor is like the smallest obvious non-avian dinosaur. But we should answer the actual question.
Smartest. So usually, then you're talking about the EQ.
The encephalization quotient.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which is basically, or the reptile encephalization quotient is usually what they use since dinosaurs are like reptiles, even though reptiles are not a super scientifically useful word. Anyway, it's like essentially it's like the mass of the brain relative to the mass of the body, but with encephalization quotient, they do a little bit of a correction because smaller animals can have a smaller brain but still be really smart because they just don't have as many neurons in their body. So really big animals need a bigger brain just for like basically all the nerves, just for like touch and stuff like that. So you have to scale it. It's not directly. So what you do is you take like modern animals, you see like you do this correction factor for their encephalization ability, their smartness, I guess, compared to their brain size at different masses, and then you sort of correlate to that. And when you do that, the sauropods are by far the least intelligent, but it's way extrapolated past what our encephalization quotient works with. It's like there's nothing on that scale of a land animal now, and especially because we were using a reptile encephalization quotient, because it's different from mammals versus reptiles. Birds have a higher neural density, so they can get by with a smaller brain and be as smart as a mammal, basically. And so, yeah, it's like it's really hard to tell what would be the smartest and the least intelligent. But if you go by encephalization quotient, it is probably troodontids. That's usually what comes out on top. And that is a type of raptor, a type of dromaeosaur. Yeah, that's what led to that weird dinosauroid.
Oh,
what did they call it? Where it was like, if they kept evolving, then troodontids would have evolved into like human-looking creatures because they were so smart and they would have gotten grasping hands and all this stuff. It's like, oh man, it was an interesting take.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so raptors are the smartest.
Probably.
It's an easier answer than the rabbit hole I went down of smallest. Okay, so now that we've gotten through our Patreon questions that got submitted in advance, we go through some of these YouTube comments and questions. So, are we a couple or just friends? We are a couple.
Or both. We're a couple and friends. Couple of friends.
Good one. Yeah, we're married. Let's us keep being married.
All right. What dinosaur would you love to see recreated in Jurassic Park level CGI? Ooh.
The first thing then is to think of all the ones that haven't been recreated or have already been recreated.
Right. And also, I think I want something with feathers.
Yeah, that's the real thing. They've created some things that should have had feathers. It would be nice to see one with feathers. So, I don't know. I usually think I want to see a Therizinosaur. They're cool. They meet the Jurassic Park requirement of being terrifying because they have massive claws, so they can be angry and like chasing like Freddy Krueger style, about to slash, or like angry Edward Scissorhands. But covered in big fluffy feathers, that would be awesome to see.
I like the idea of Microraptor. Of maybe see a quick scene of it brooding or something.
Yeah, that could be cool. Or Oviraptor.
That one might
A fluffy
be
Oviraptor?
in the upcoming. Can't remember.
Yeah, but like a better one with feathers.
Oh, I see. They are getting better.
Or maybe it had feathers in there, I don't
think
remember.
it did have some.
But they had it eating an egg, which is just like, why continuing to besmirch the Oviraptor's character after we know it was just brooding those eggs.
Here's rant number 2. Oh, wait, no, we did a rabbit hole. Now we're doing a rant.
Yeah, we're way past number 2. I think that's like number 17. Oh, yeah, someone recommended we should go to Brussels and see the Iguanodon.
Oh, yeah, that would be great.
That would be cool. All right. Let's see what else we got.
Okay. Have you guys got any plans to write and publish another book? Oh,
Yes.
so many ideas for books. We'll see which ones turn into reality. Do have one in the works right now. It's not quite as dinosaur-y as the other ones we've had, but it's got a couple of chapters that are focused on it. But I don't know yet what we'll be doing with it.
Yeah, it's like, can I talk about what it is?
Yeah.
So it's It's basically inspired by the fact that if you drink a glass of water, you're drinking most of the, maybe it's even most, a lot of the water that you're drinking was at one point inside a dinosaur, like even including, in its muscles and its tissue and all that kind of stuff.
It's the idea that you got atoms and molecules that have been around forever.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah.
And what they've been through, or, the different things they've been a part of to build.
Is like if that atom could talk and give you its life history for all the places it's been, the animals it's been in,
Right.
Going all the way back to its first creation
through
today.
It's actually a couple of friends.
Yeah.
Going through the universe together. Mostly Earth.
I love the idea. So we've been working on that one, mostly you, for quite a while.
Yeah.
And then we're also hoping one day to launch a dinosaur series of books that are like fiction style. And yeah, that would... we're still like trying to figure out, do we want the dinosaurs to talk? Probably they kind of have to in order to make it work, but then like how civilized do we want them to be, and then like what is their society going to be like?
That one's much earlier stages.
Yeah. That one, yeah, because we keep just like mulling over these details, but definitely there will be more dinosaur books. All right, so let's see, how would you react if the scientific world discovered that the T-Rex was quadruped? I think if it was a quadruped, it would probably have to be a hexapod instead of a tetrapod, because, we've found its arms and its shoulder girdles a few times, so it seems like it would probably have to have 4 legs in addition to 2 arms, which would be awesome. The coolest thing about it would be there was some ghost lineage of hexapods or something, or it just like evolved, and like how did this creature with 6 limbs, this vertebrate, evolve? That would be super awesome. I would want to know a lot more.
Yeah. Do you think there was ever a creature like Shonosaurus that grew bigger than a blue whale, or do you think there's a limit reached with the blue whale?
Oh, interesting. Let's see. I think the biggest sauropods, on the upper end of the weight mass estimates, it's like 80 tons maybe, which is still quite a bit less. I think blue whales get up to like 180 tons.
Right, but I think it helps that they live in the water.
Yeah, so I don't think a sauropod would ever be as big as a blue whale, just because being in the water, really, the ocean, like blue whales, when they get onto land, they basically collapse under their own weight. So it's difficult, and that was actually the original reason why people thought that sauropods had to live in the water, because it was like, they're just like whales, they're so huge, there's no way these things could possibly walk around. Imagine how much weight would be on those legs, it would crush them. So yeah, I don't know about the strength of bone. I haven't seen a model to try to estimate if there's like a limit on our bone strength. I assume that if you got big enough, like if you just keep increasing the size of that bone, you could get bigger and bigger. But there's probably a energy issue there. So like with whales, the advantage is they can swim with less energy input than it takes a sauropod to walk, and they can just open their mouth and eat a ton of food just while slowly going, close their mouth, swallow just a ton of krill, and then continue with their day. And there's so much more energy in krill too, since whales are carnivores, than there is in plants. So I think it becomes almost an issue of how could a sauropod eat enough food to stay alive in order and sustain a huge body mass.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the limit on it, more so than a physical
Because they're already
size.
eating most of the day.
Exactly, yeah. We saw, there was an American Museum of Natural History exhibit on sauropods, and they were like, this is how much food a sauropod eats. It was like a glass case that was huge. It was like a couple cubic meters, or yards if you're into gardening in the US, of food, and it was crazy. So it's really hard to eat that much food, and then if you have to eat that much food, you have to move around quite a bit to get the food, which is maybe why they had such a long neck, because that way they didn't have to physically move all their bulk to get the food. They could sort of sweep around and be able
lawnmower
sprinkler
style.
Yeah. So there's probably a limit there. And also, if you're eating trees, you need to be able to maneuver around the trees a little bit.
Unless they were eating like Gertie.
Just swallowing the entire trunk of the tree. Yeah. Like a giant termite. It's true. So if they could evolve that, yeah, they just clear cut the rainforest while they walk. But then even then they'd eat too much food and they'd run out of food. So I don't know. I think the limit there is probably an energy limit more so than a size thing. But it could also be a size thing with their circulatory system. It's amazing that they could pump blood to their head and that they could breathe. You know, they did have the unidirectional airflow with the air sacs and stuff. So I think that's the only way that they could have such a long neck too. But how much longer could it get? And then what's the value in getting bigger? If you're already so much bigger than all the predators that nothing eats you once you're an adult,
right?
What's the selective pressure to continue to get bigger? Yeah. So I don't think anything got as big as blue whale, to answer the very basic question that we went way too long on.
Ooh, there's a young Torosaurus in Denver.
Oh, nice.
There's a lot of stuff we want to see in Denver, and near Denver.
Yeah, Torosaurus.
On the list.
That is one of the things where it's like, if you find a young Torosaurus, that immediately makes the Triceratops-Torosaurus debate moot. So as long as everybody agrees it's a Torosaurus, I guess that would be the other thing.
Are we excited for Jurassic World Dominion? Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Very excited. We went to see, what was it, F9, just so we could see the preview.
Yeah.
5-minute preview.
I really enjoyed F9. And then when we went to see it, there was a malfunction with the projector. So it got delayed. The start time got delayed by like 25 minutes, and we were like, they better not skip this preview to try to catch up. They skipped all the other previews except for the Jurassic World Dominion preview, and we're like,
which was good because that was the main reason we were there.
So Rito's like, if they skip this preview, I'm walking out. So the whole reason we're here. But F9 was also enjoyable, so
it
wouldn't have been a total loss.
Not the same.
T-Rex wouldn't have been able to hug each other, which makes me sad. That is true.
Yep.
All right. Is Edmarca Rex a Torvosaurus, or we don't know? I don't know what Edmarca Rex is.
No, I haven't heard of that one.
So I don't know. Guess I'll just continue. Oh no, I scrolled all the way to the end accidentally.
Okay. We've got... Next Q&A needs at least one booster seat. Hey! Yeah, maybe. Assuming male dinosaurs with feathers would have been more colorful than the female counterparts, like birds of paradise, for example. Oh, could be.
Yes. The interesting thing is, we went down, this was a different rabbit hole I went down, which is about which gender or which sex of dinosaur selects in the mating displays and all that sort of stuff has an impact on what they look like. So it's possible that dinosaurs were like matriarchal, basically. So the females were selecting the males, in which case, yes, the males would need the display. But if it went the other way, or matrilineal, that's what it's called, not matriarchal, versus patrilineal. But if it went the other way, it's possible that the females would be the ones to display. So, or the other one is animals that raise their young together tend to both have display. So that's how humans are. We both have different features that show off to the other side, because you're going to be with this other human or dinosaur for a long time, raising an individual together. And anyway, things that are monogamous tend to look more similar, and also tend to have similar amount of display characteristics. So you see that
with some birds. Exactly,
yeah. Some of the birds, the males and the females, look really similar, and those often are the monogamous ones. So, yeah, it just depends. So I guess maybe the carnivores might have been more similar, because we think the carnivores might have raised their young.
Mm-hmm. Do we wish everyone knew the truth about dinosaurs? Is it that they're awesome? And yes.
And that they are also birds, or birds are dinosaurs. Yeah.
Yeah.
Would be good.
Seems like a lot of people know that. All right. Not sure if it's already been asked. What do you guys do for day jobs? Is it dino related? It is.
Yeah, because this is now our day job.
As of this year, for both of us.
Yeah, so it took 6 years or so of podcasting.
6.5 years, yeah.
Before we got to doing it full time.
Yes.
But yeah, it is now we do it, and we're happy about it.
We are. That's why we're able to do stuff like this.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. Do you ever find it frustrating that dinosaur-related stuff is usually aimed at kids or viewed as childish? Well, for our wedding, when we first told my mom that we wanted a dinosaur-themed wedding, she said, you hadn't had a dinosaur-themed party since you were 6.
Was that frustrating?
A little bit at the time. But it worked out in the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is sometimes frustrating. It is when we tell people that we do a dinosaur podcast for our job. People often say stuff like, oh, I have a grandson who's very interested in dinosaurs.
Well, that's cool, too, because there's a lot of kids who do enjoy listening to the show. And we've had some parents and grandparents say they listen with their kids and grandkids.
Yes. But, yes, adults do like dinosaurs, too.
It's more... and it's been actually it's gotten better lately, but like a few years ago, say we wanted to look for some dinosaur clothing. It would have been really hard to find that wasn't for kids, but that's gotten better.
Yes.
You see it sometimes, like in the Discord the other day, somebody was asking about dinosaur covers, duvets, and when I first looked around, it was like it's all twin beds, which I guess technically an adult could have a twin bed, but
it's uncommon.
Yeah. So certain things, yeah.
Yeah.
But I do think it's getting more widespread, maybe.
Yeah, and there's a lot of stuff that's intended for kids, which is also really enjoyable. Like, we have a bunch of really realistic dinosaur toys, and it's like, yeah, those were intended for kids, but adults enjoy them too. So usually it's fine, but sometimes it is a little annoying, yes.
Ooh, somebody looked up the EQs. Thank you.
Yeah, they gave Troodon at like 6, which is really high.
Nice. Oh, they had a fluffy Oviraptor in the special peak with... Yeah, I thought I remembered it being fluffy.
It was, yeah. Was it... I was distracted by the fact it was eating an egg. It's like, why? I feel bad for Oviraptor.
Yeah, it does have the bad rap.
So,
it's getting corrected, that we see it in museums now. It's very rare that we've seen it talk about being an egg thief anymore.
Yeah, usually they show it sitting on eggs. And that's what the feathers are good for, covering the eggs. So then we got, are the books aimed at adults or children, or both?
Everything we do, we try to keep it family friendly. I know the books we've released in the past have been maybe a little technical for some kids. I think some kids have read them, though. But yeah, those were aimed more at adults. The next couple, the one with the atoms, for example, is more kids, I think.
Yeah, but I don't know. I think the Dinosaur Tales, like 50 Dinosaur Tales, it's like our main book right now. That one is, I think, fine for kids. It's basically stories about dinosaurs doing their thing.
Yeah,
so
very short stories.
Yeah, it does have really crazy dinosaur names, but every dinosaur book does.
That's true.
And then also the names of the formations and stuff, which are long, but... yeah, and then, but you do have a specific, Sabrina wrote a specific kids book, which is, what's the title of it?
What Happened to Brontosaurus?
Yeah.
As a picture book, though.
Yes. Well, that's why it's a kids book. It doesn't get more kids book than picture book.
We've got that creative journal. That could be for both.
True.
Too,
yeah.
Depending what you want to do with it.
So I would say both. Yeah.
Yeah. Ooh, a book based around our dinosaur of the day. That could be interesting.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
There's so many good ideas, but so little time.
Yeah. So we've got a question. What common dinosaur do you think we have the most wrong in terms of appearance, behavior, or what we think we know? What do we... That's a really interesting question. It's almost like a philosophical question, because it's like, what do we
I think you'd
wrong
have to,
about?
You'd have to go with the dinosaur we know very little about, very few, because I'm thinking like Dinochirus, how for the longest time we knew just the huge claws and thought this was some kind of terrifying predator, and then more bones were found, and the description came out, and headlines were like, "This is like Jar Jar Binks."
Yeah. It's got a big hump on its back and all this weird stuff.
So
Yeah.
it's got to be something we don't know more than a couple of bones about.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah, that's a really good way to look at it. I would also say, in terms of what the average person gets the most wrong about in terms of a dinosaur, I think is probably Dilophosaurus.
Because the venom from Jurassic Park.
It's a lot of things. The people think of it as small because the one in Jurassic Park is small, but in real life it was the apex predator, or at least the largest carnivore dinosaur, and it was like 20 feet long or more, and it probably didn't have a neck frill. There's no evidence of that. It didn't spit venom, and even its head crests look very different. We just had a new reconstruction on it, and they're like much bigger and wider and more hollow, basically. So it was more like a big, like hornbill, or is that what it's called? I think it's called a hornbill, like big puffy thing on top of its head, not just like two individual slits. So, yeah.
I was thinking with some of the titanosaurs, especially like how Patagotitan, for example, when it first came out, they were saying, well, I know in the AM&H it's 122 feet long, but I think they used to think it was longer. And then like a year or two later, it was considered to be much shorter. Like still huge, but not as huge.
Yeah. I guess Spinosaurus too.
Oh, that's...
A lot of people are wrong. No matter what it is, there's a lot of people that are wrong right now because there's a lot of debate going back and forth about what Spinosaurus was like.
Yeah. Hopefully we'll know more. Oh, it's getting to the end of the year.
Hopefully soon, yeah. So let's see what else we got. Have you all ever been to Dinosaur Land in White Post, Virginia?
No.
I have not.
I didn't know. Did we know about that?
I don't know.
I don't know if we did.
I'm guessing it's one of the animatronic outdoor sculpture type things.
Oh, that's cool.
That does sound cool. And then, favorite extinct lineage other than dinosaurs and why? Extinct lineage. Oh, man. I mostly think about dinosaurs for the extinct stuff, and then I have tons of favorite living animals. Like bats and sharks and koalas.
I guess you kind of talked about, like I said, pterosaurs before, and you were saying...
Pterosaurs are really cool.
You had a bunch.
Yeah, there's like glyptodonts, and there's... Yeah, the Adasaurs, all that stuff.
Ooh, any extinct bats?
I don't know, but that might be on the same lineage.
Oh, you're right.
I guess anything is a lineage, if you want to be pedantic about it. But, yeah, I think, there's so many cool ones. Plesiosaurs lately have been really fascinating me because of the whole flipper thing. That's definitely up there, too. Right. Let's see... Ever thought about broadcasting live from a museum?
Ooh.
We did do that.
Were they live? I think we uploaded them later because we didn't have Wi-Fi.
We did a couple of them live.
These were really short.
They were really short.
Quick couple of minute tour around some museums we went to for our patrons.
Yeah. And they weren't very popular, so we stopped doing it.
But maybe again in the future.
Yeah.
We also didn't have the best equipment.
Yeah, but people didn't seem super interested. People like pictures. Pictures always come across a lot better because museums are always really dark, so it's hard to shoot a museum live with good video that looks nice.
The audio can be tricky too. You get a lot of echo.
It's so echoey at museums.
If there's a lot of people around too.
Yeah, so usually we do pictures and stick to that. We got a good still image camera. Less good video cameras.
If we're able to get like a behind the scenes tour and they let us go in when it's closed normally.
Yeah.
Or something.
Yeah, that's true. All right, so what's your favorite dinosaur? My favorite dinosaur is Ankylosaurus.
Oh yeah, and mine's Brontosaurus.
It's a simple one. There's nothing more to say than that. Yeah. Other than Ankylosaurus is better than Brontosaurus.
It's not. Brontosaurus is huge. It's got the long neck.
Just like me.
Your neck's not nearly on the same scale.
No, it's not. Then we got, do you think there is too much chopping and charging, chopping and changing with some species and families of dinosaurs, especially when they find juvenile versions of the same species, or of the species? So That's basically like, is there too much splitting? Or another lumper splitter question. I think that it does happen. So I guess there is too much in that it happens. Because an amount of it is too much of it. But I think we're at a pretty good balance of the new dinosaurs named versus, like the lumping and splitting seems to be pretty. People kind of know if they're naming something and it's likely to get lumped later. So I don't think it happens as much as it used to. But at the same time, I get really, less so for juveniles, but more so for just really incomplete finds. I'm not a big fan of, we found 4 really poor quality vertebrae, here's a new dinosaur name. It's like, what? How can you know that's unique? And even if it is unique, someone's going to find something later and it's going to be so much better. And it's going to be like, is this the same? Well, those 4 vertebrae have these 2 things in common, which were the only unique things about it. But yeah, that's what I think there's too much of.
There's another rant.
Yeah.
Lego Jurassic game is aimed at kids, but it's a brilliant game. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
We are also in our 30s and love that game.
I think that's the only Lego game we got to 100% completion on.
Did we?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a really good one.
Yeah, that was. I hope they come out with more.
Me too. Yeah, I was really, because they had the first Jurassic Park one, the Lego Jurassic World, that's what it was called. So it had the 3 Jurassic Parks in Jurassic World.
Yeah.
And then when Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom came out, I was like, oh, maybe we'll get a new Lego game.
Yeah.
And we didn't get anything.
Not
Maybe we got the
Lego.
Park Builder.
Yeah. Maybe after Dominion comes out,
Yeah.
they'll complete the set.
I would rather they were doing a new Lego game than the sequel to the Park Builder game. I'll still play the new Jurassic World Evolution, but I would rather play a new Jurassic World Dominion Lego game.
Oh, yeah. All the Lego games are good. We started off with Harry Potter, actually. That was...
but that's the best one. If you've played the Lego games, you're looking for a new one, the Harry Potter one, because you do like the magic and it works so well with the mechanics. It's great.
Will you ever do any of the flying and swimming prehistoric animals?
Maybe. So I guess this is a good time to bring it up. Our 200 patron goal was to do this Q&A, and we will probably do more. But the 250 patron goal is to start another podcast for...
Like bonus episodes.
Yeah, for like the ad-free tier. We wanted to start like a fully ad-free series, and we're not sure exactly what that's going to be like yet. It might be other extinct animals. That's one way we were thinking about it, because we also wanted to be able to remember what was said in what, because it's difficult to remember when we say stuff. So
it's some kind of easy dividing line.
Yeah, so if we're always talking about dinosaurs on one podcast, and then we have the other separate Patreon podcast, and that covered other types of animals, that might be one way to do it. So that's something we've considered. But we might also just branch out on the regular podcast and make the premium podcast more about like Q&As and things like that. I don't know. Not sure. But we probably will branch out. I had assumed we would when we ran out of dinosaurs, but they keep finding dinosaurs.
We are far from running out of dinosaurs.
There's so many dinosaurs to cover. And there's still tons of really interesting... It's not just like we're at the dregs where it's like, oh, this one's only 4 vertebrae, like I was saying. There's lots of really interesting... There are literally hundreds of really fascinating dinosaurs where we know something unique about all of them. So, yeah, there's so many dinosaurs to go through.
Like, I think we've got nearly 20 in the queue right now for Dinosaur of the Day requests.
Yeah.
So.
Which is like half a year.
Yeah.
Where are we at of these questions?
What current dinosaur or dinosaur theory do you think will change the most in the future?
I still kind of think that there's going to be a major change in the overall dinosaur lineage family tree.
Oh, Ornithoscelida?
Yeah, maybe not Ornithoscelida, but literally the Saurischia Ornithischia divide, like that half of the dinosaurs are in one and half are in the other, was the hypothesis when we knew like 10 dinosaurs. It just seems the odds of when you only know 1% or less of an evolutionary family tree to guess the tree right, it just seems so unlikely that I don't know. It
Oh
seemed.
no, there's an echo.
Oh, we got an echo? Interesting. I don't know
I'm not
why.
sure. Is the echo still there?
I don't know. I guess we'll just keep going.
Yeah.
I don't know why we didn't change anything. There shouldn't be an echo. But yeah, so I think the overall evolution of the dinosaurs is probably
Okay, good.
the way to go. Oh, that's good. So yeah, I think that's probably the big change. The other one would be if we find color things, understanding if there's some sort of crazy color. I would love to know if there was like a pink dinosaur. That would be awesome.
That would be great. I mean, there's flamingos. Why not?
Yeah, I guess you're right. There already is a pink dinosaur,
Yeah.
a pink non-avian dinosaur.
So, have you ever been to the Natural History Museum in London? What did you think? Yes.
Sabrina's been there multiple times.
So have you? Didn't you go back?
I did go back. Yeah.
Because you missed the Archaeopteryx.
I did, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sabrina went back when there was still Dippy.
Right. When I was maybe 5 or 6 years old.
And then Sabrina had a work trip before she was working on the podcast full time, but I already was.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I'm tagging along because I want to go to this museum I've been waiting to go to like my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was awesome. We had talked to Research Casting International. They're the ones that installed the blue whale. So I wasn't super disappointed about Dippy not being there because we also
You
saw
still had something huge that was in the...
Yeah, and I like whales. Whales are cool.
Mm-hmm.
And the way they hung it from the rafters in like a really dynamic pose and everything was pretty awesome. So that was like the only thing I was a little bit worried about being disappointed by. Plus in the U.S. we still have the original Dippy.
The main room with the dinosaurs, you could spend hours going through.
Yeah, the
So
dinosaur
much.
side room. That room was more packed with dinosaur stuff than any other museum, with the exception of the Black Hills Institute. That one's literally like packed. Like they angled the fossils so that you could actually fit them all in the room. But it was a much smaller room.
But
too.
in the London one, I remember there's stuff on the ceiling and then on the floor and then right at eye level, so you're kind of looking in all directions.
That was crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a really cool museum. One of my favorites was actually the Mantellosaurus, I think it's called, Mantellosaurus, off to the side from where Dippy used to be, where it's like...
It's just in that display case.
Because you can get all the way around it, but it's in really good shape. And then, yeah, like Sabrina, I went twice because I missed when you go up the main stairs, there's an area sort of behind it where I think they call it like the... it's like the extra special fossil room. I don't remember. That's not what they call it, but something like that. That's where they have the original iguanodon teeth is the main thing, and there's also, I think, an original Archaeopteryx, but it might be I think it's one of the original Archaeopteryx lithographica fossils, and just a bunch of other super important fossils in that room. Not all dinosaur related, but that's why I missed it, because it wasn't in the dinosaur area. So definitely make sure you go into that room if you're ever at that museum.
And that's at a couple museums we've almost missed something that was a little bit off to the side.
Yeah, the Melbourne Museum.
Yeah, where they had all the holotypes.
Yeah, it's like in there.
We knew that they had the holotypes. We knew to look for it.
If we didn't know, there's no way we would have found them.
Yeah.
Because there's the dinosaur area, and then they've got like the 500 million year history of Australia area, or Victoria.
Right.
And in the middle of that, obviously in the Mesozoic, is where you find all the like Atlas Copcosaurus and Laellonosaura and all those.
Or the what was the museum in Japan we almost missed? That really cool time traveling experience.
Oh yeah, that was that Kokura or something like that. I'd
have to look it up.
I think either the southern end of Honshu or the northern end of Kyushu.
And the reason we went there is because they had a show starting, so they were trying to usher people in.
Yeah, we're only here for the dinosaurs. They're like...
But we
didn't speak Japanese, they didn't speak English.
Yeah,
and so we were just like, okay, we'll go.
Yeah.
And then
it was the coolest part of the museum.
They had this Mamenchosaurus reconstruction with a crazy long neck.
Well, they had all the animatronic dinosaurs that played out like the last scene in that formation.
Yeah.
That was cool.
That was super cool.
So I think...
So what we thought of the London Museum is, it's good.
Well, I was thinking, just museums in general, sometimes you gotta kind of go around corners and see.
Yes.
In case you're missing something.
Definitely. Is there any plans for the anniversary of the Big Al specimen?
Oh.
I have no idea. I didn't know we were approaching an anniversary.
No. Well, we can look into it.
Yeah.
See what's going on.
Probably. Museums tend to do big things for anniversaries. It's a good move.
Yeah, standing at the entrance, age of 7, looking up at a giant skeleton of Diplodocus. That standout moment. Yep. Same.
How did a cold-blooded reptile evolve into a warm-blooded bird is a question. So there are different ideas about that. There are still some people that talk, like with dinosaurs, warm-blooded and cold-blooded is like a weird thing because what you want as an animal is to not be using too many calories so that you don't starve to death. Mm-hmm. But you also want to be, especially if you're a predator, you want to be quick so that you can catch stuff. So there's always a balancing act of how fast your metabolism is. And when it comes to dinosaurs, they have an extra advantage, which is when you're really big, you get this thing called gigantothermy. And so basically you don't need to use as many calories to keep your body temperature up because just being really big, you have all this extra insulation and you're more efficient at staying warm than something that's really small. So whether or not they were gigantotherms or mesotherms, which is sort of in between warm and cold-blooded, or if they were sort of cold-blooded or full warm-blooded, is still a little bit debated. Most people since basically the 70s have been saying that the dinosaurs were essentially endotherms, meaning that they were warm-blooded. So that's what I would go with, and I think they were warm-blooded. I don't know. We don't know exactly when they switched because obviously all land vertebrates came from aquatic creatures, which were like fish, and those essentially all started out as cold-blooded. So somewhere along the line, they sort of switched. My guess would be that because dinosaurs started out as predators, in order to be more efficient predators, metabolism probably went up a little bit so that they could move more quickly, and then that was sort of the route. That's my guess. I don't know. I haven't looked too much into this. And it's really hard to study, too, because since you can't directly see the, endothermy versus ectothermy level of a dinosaur, you can't really chart when it happened and how it happened because it's hard to even see if it happened. So, yeah, we know it did happen because, like you said, modern birds are warm-blooded. And obviously it's advantageous for them because they need a pretty high metabolism and a lot of energy available in order to fly. So they're certainly not going to go back to cold-blooded. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, not going to run out of dinosaurs for some time. That's for sure. Do you think we'll find dinosaur-like creatures on other planets?
Oh, man.
Ooh.
Dinosaur-like. I don't even know if we'll find
human-like creatures
or bacteria-like creatures, like any kind of creature. I mean, I assume, like most scientists, I think now that out in the universe there is another creature somewhere.
Mm-hmm. But might look very different.
Yeah, and whether we will find it is a whole different question, and whether it's any bigger than, single cell or small multicellular organism is another question. So I would say no, just because dinosaurs were only around for a pretty brief history of time on Earth, and then whether or not there's any sort of Earth-like animal, ranging from a mosquito to a octopus to a dinosaur or human is probably unlikely, and then picking one of those. Yeah, so I would say probably not, but I think we're likely to be able to create a dinosaur-like creature, a non-avian dinosaur-like creature on Earth again.
You might find some sort of life not on Earth, too.
Yeah, that's true.
All right. Under the morphological species concept, would Homo neanderthalensis be considered synonymous with Homo sapiens? Not taking genealogy into account. Had a great convo with my anthro professor about this.
Yeah, that's the thing we talk about a lot, which is like paleontology has a very different set of standards for what gets lumped versus split. I don't know. Like it for us, it's easy to see the difference between Neanderthals and Homo sapiens because it's like we're very familiar with what a Homo sapien skeleton looks like, so any little difference is obvious.
True.
Yeah. So I guess like the farther it gets from us, the easier or the harder it gets to tell the difference. I don't know though. I think they'd probably still be different. A lot of it goes based on proportions of limb bones and things like that. And they had like relatively larger, hands or something, and like shorter femur, but they were like wider or something. They were like more robust. They might, if I had to guess, they might settle on a different species in the same genus. That would be my guess. Yeah. Because we do see that, for example, with some of the, like Allosaurus, with Allosaurus jim-madseni that recently got split out. It's like clearly has some differences than Allosaurus, but overall it's like pretty similar. So they ended up making it another species in the same genus. That would be my guess. But it 100% depends on who's writing the paper, and it depends on the type of dinosaur it is, because different families of dinosaurs, because they have different experts and they have different history of lumping and splitting, have totally different like levels of what is required to be a different genus.
Who makes the best dinosaur and other prehistoric animal figures?
So the one we liked was
Safari Limited.
Yeah, Safari Limited. And they were a sponsor of our show briefly too, which was nice. They were the ones...
That was after we bought a bunch of theirs.
Yeah. So for our wedding, we bought a bunch of their Cambridge, I think was the museum affiliation. They did like a collaboration. That's the word, collaboration.
Oh, I thought it was Carnegie.
Oh, Carnegie. You're right. It's Carnegie. Wrong C museum. The Carnegie collection, they called it. So they had some paleontologists at the Carnegie Museum work with their toy designers to make like the most realistic dinosaur toys that they could. And we bought, I think, one of each.
Right. Those were the centerpieces for our wedding.
Yeah. So we had like 20 of them. And then originally I wanted to make it so that the dinosaur, rather than having table numbers for our wedding, we just had dinosaur names and everyone just had to figure out which dinosaur was which.
That would be too confusing, so we did both.
Yeah, so we ended up being like, you're at the T-Rex table, which is also number 4 or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then our centerpiece at our little tiny, what do they call it, like a couples table that we had?
Sweetheart table or something.
Yeah, we had an ankylosaur and a brontosaurus, or it was probably called a potosaurus at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are great.
Those are super good. The Carnegie collection ones, they don't make anymore, but I don't actually think they're any fancier or better than just their regular Safari Limited stuff. They sort of redid their line they're always coming out with new ones, and they have come out with some really scientifically accurate ones recently. I think we bought a couple of those as well. Yeah, so I think they might have axed the connection when it was like, we can do this on our own. And then, I don't know.
We don't know.
We don't know what the backdoor dealings were, but the result is they have some really good dinosaur toys still.
Can dinosaurs have poisonous skin? We would not know this because skin is rare in dinosaurs.
That was a really good way to answer your own question. That is true. We wouldn't know. I mean, I guess people are coming up with really clever ways to analyze chemistry of fossils. So it is possible that occasionally skin does get preserved, at least partially, and it's possible that we could find some trace element of like some cyanide type thing. The problem with poisons is they're very reactive. So from a chemical standpoint, they break down pretty quickly. So like the easiest thing to find fossilized is like tooth enamel, because the whole point of it is that it doesn't react with anything. It stays exactly how it is as long as possible and resists everything. Whereas poison, it's like it wants to latch on to something else and cause damage. So poisons don't usually last as long as some of the other chemicals in nature. So it'd be hard to say. I think the best way we would find out about poison in general in a dinosaur is if we found like a hollow fang. Like something that was really analogous to like a snake or some other animal that bites with and injects venom. That would be venom, not poison. But yeah, that I think we could find fossilized evidence of. Yeah.
So we both answered herbivores as our favorite dinosaurs. What's your favorite carnivore? Ooh.
Oh man, favorite carnivore. Do you have one?
I do like Allosaurus, but I don't know if that's because lately I've been reading a lot of Allosaurus-related papers.
Yeah, that does happen. Like whatever the newest one. Like for a while, I was super into Dakota Raptor because that got discovered recently, and I was like, oh, it's the biggest. And there were all these analogies, like it's like the Ferrari of raptors because it's big and fast.
Right.
But yeah, then I hear new things about Utah Raptor and how it was like bigger than we previously thought and like more robust and a little bit more, capable as a hunter. And then I'm like, oh yeah, Utah Raptor's awesome. It changes all the time. I really like weirdos though. So I think if I didn't have all this history loving Ankylosaurus, my favorite dinosaur would probably be like Nothronicus or some other large Therizinosaur because they're just the weirdest with the super long claws, but being herbivores.
Yeah.
Those are also
we're talking
herbivores.
about carnivores.
Yeah, but just in the same vein, I think Dinocyrus. Oh no, Dinocyrus is also herbivore.
herbivorous.
Alvarezsaurus.
Oh?
I don't know if we know. I think that might.
We don't know exactly what it ate.
It's possible that ate like ants, which would make it a carnivore.
Yeah.
Because just the weird little claws. It's so creepy and cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, Alvarezsaurus maybe. I also there's
all the
so many
raptors
cool
are
ones.
cool too.
Yeah, Carnotaurus is really cool with the horns on its head, and it also has
Mhm.
like the goofy tiny little hands. That one actually has like hands, but like no arm, not much of an arm to go with it, which is still has like 5 fingers.
Mhm.
It's like what? But they can't like move them very much. It's such a. Yeah, I love the weirdos. All right, what's your like that dinosaur in China?
We talking about the poisonous stuff.
Oh yeah, there are lots of, or maybe the weird one, Nothronicus. I think there's a Erlikosaurus. I can't remember which Therizinosaurus from China.
Mm.
But yeah,
Favorite creatures from Paleozoic?
Paleozoic. I don't know. Paleozoic's the one before Mesozoic, right? Yeah. I sometimes mix it up with Paleolithic. That's the one after. Or Cenozoic, I guess, if we're going by the Zoics. So, yeah. Paleozoic. Man. So there's so much weird stuff with the Cambrian explosion. I like some of those things that aren't even vertebrates. Like the huge bugs and stuff, like the giant sea scorpions.
Oh,
Those
yeah.
are pretty cool. They're so weird. Imagining that world without any vertebrae is kind of fun. I also like Dunkleosteus. I mean, who doesn't like Dunkleosteus with its huge exoskeleton, and then it's got like teeth built into its exoskeleton, basically. That's cool. What else goes on in the Paleozoic? That's cool. There's some cool early sharks. Oh, like Helicoprion, I'm pretty sure is Paleozoic. That thing with like the whirl of teeth. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. And there's the fun like Tiktaalik and all the like super early amphibians that are just learning how to walk. That's cool. Yeah.
Which dino would make for the best prehistoric bacon and eggs? I'm hungry. That's a good question.
I guess for bacon, you go with an herbivore.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Probably one that moved slowly. So either of our favorite dinosaurs would probably be reasonably good for bacon. I mean, like ornithopods and things like that are probably too fast and might be gamey.
Oh, yeah. You want something fatty.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
For eggs, I would go with something small. Probably just some small theropod that's related to birds.
We tried an ostrich egg once. And
it's too much egg.
It was huge. And it also tastes, I can't remember exactly how it tasted, but I do think I prefer the taste of chicken eggs.
You can basically only scramble it, too. You can't do like a fried egg with an ostrich egg because it's like one huge egg. So Yeah, if you do the small eggs, then you have your options. You can do poached, you can do fried, you can do scrambled if you want. Throw a few of them in. You could do you could do whites only, or like half yolk. Anyway,
Boil them, soft boil.
it's making me hungry too.
Yeah. Do you all play any dinosaur board games like Dinopoly?
Yeah,
We just played that one.
we still got it in the corner of the room.
Yeah,
Actually,
a few weeks. But we play lots of games.
we do have a lot of dinosaur games. Yeah, my favorite dinosaur board game is Jurassic Park 3. It's very simple.
Was it like Island Adventure or something? Island Attack?
I could get it. It's basically what you do is I'm gonna grab it.
Okay.
It's right over here.
It's one of those. You call it a cooperative game.
Yes.
Yeah,
It's
where
like a dungeon master.
where
thing,
one person plays as the dinosaurs and everyone else plays as the characters from Jurassic Park 3, and you have to escape the island. It's a good thing we have this game in the corner of the room here, easy access.
Yeah.
You gonna
All right.
you gonna hold it up?
Gotta get my headphones.
Oh,
back on.
right, the headphones.
So this is like free promotion for whoever made this game because they are not a sponsor. This is a Hasbro game.
Island survival game. Oh, it's close.
Yeah, so basically one person plays as the equivalent of the dungeon master and they control all the dinosaurs, and then everybody else plays as people, and your job as the dungeon master is to go and eat all the people before they escape the island. So basically like what was happening in Jurassic Park 3, but super fun. It's very simple, and yeah, I almost always play as the dinosaurs. Mm-hmm. And I
actually
almost
hard-
always lose, but
Yeah,
it's
it's hard
still
to win as the dinosaur.
it's still more fun to be the dinosaurs and lose, at least to me, than it is to play as the
And
people.
what's the three dinosaurs? It's Spinosaurus, T-Rex, and Raptors. Oh, and then
Yeah.
then there's also the Pterosaurs.
There's two Spinosaurs. It's like it basically follows the plot of the game. So you've got like
The plot of the movie, yeah.
Oh yeah, the plot of the movie. You've got 4 sections. The first section is like where they're on the runway. So there's a T-Rex and a Spinosaurus, and that's it. And then the next one is all raptors. And then there's one where it's like in the water with Spinosaurus. And then the last, there's another one. I guess there's 5. Because there's 2 also that just have pterosaurs. Mm-hmm. And then if the pterosaur gets you, it takes you back to the nest. And then you like roll to do damage and stuff. So, yeah,
Yep.
that one's really fun.
Yeah, but we have a lot of games.
Yeah.
So if you were to combine 2 dinosaurs to make a new dinosaur, which would you choose? Ooh. I don't... Oh, in the Lego game, you've done that.
Yeah.
But you combine more than 2 dinosaurs. Because you could do the custom dinosaur. And you had a very weird one. You made it chrome colored, and
Yeah.
it had a ceratopsian head, I think. But the body of a hadrosaur, maybe?
It was technically, I don't know if it was a body. I think it had the legs of a raptor. Or so like the body more or less of a raptor, but like a small ceratopsian head. And then I think I gave it an ankylosaur tail.
That's what, yeah, okay.
So it just combined all my favorites. It's like, some people do the stegosaur back too, but I think I wanted to be fast, because that's the thing. I like the herbivores because they're cool and they're friendly, whatever.
Ish.
And in that game too, as a ceratopsian you could charge and smash stuff, and then with the ankylosaur you could shake your tail and smash stuff.
So if you could only pick 2 of the dinosaurs you combined there.
I don't know. It's like it worked in that game, in game logic, because I could go fast as a raptor, but still have like these powerful slow herbivore moves.
And that is interesting, yeah. You combine a carnivore with an herbivore.
Yeah. So I guess if I combine 2, it would probably be like I don't know. What's a fast, maybe like a Struthiomimus, because you want something fast.
You do?
I mean, this is assuming that I am that creature, which is a little bit of a weird place to start with it. But I would want to be a Struthiomimus, but with that's what I do. Struthiomimus, but Therizinosaur claws. That's what I do.
Ooh.
because then you
it's
you
very
could be
formidable.
Yeah, you can be fast but still ferocious. Because Therizinosaurus is almost perfect. Because it's an herbivore and it's got the big claws, so nothing messes with it. But it's still probably pretty slow. It's got pretty short legs, and it doesn't look like it's built for speed. But Struthiomimus is, so get some claws on it, and then I'd be happy.
I'd want to combine something that could glide.
Oh yeah, that's smart. Yeah, you're going bird style. Yeah, that's better. That's a better answer. So what would you do something big? Would you want to be a big thing that can fly?
I don't know. I'm used to being on the smaller side, so I might go for the smaller one.
Well, you don't want to be a bird that's getting eaten by other birds.
That's true. I don't. So yeah, maybe I'd have to go big.
You go like pelican.
Oh, I was trying to think of non-avian.
Oh, okay.
That would be interesting.
Combine a pelican with a T-Rex.
Oh man, I was originally thinking like T-Rex and Brontosaurus, but then it would be so big. Like, how do you possibly get that much meat?
Oh yeah, you don't want that.
Yeah, it's too difficult. That's why then I was thinking on the smaller side.
Gotcha. So you could be like a Microraptor or something.
Yeah, I really do like Microraptors.
What other questions we got going?
Oh, right. Now I know what to eat when I inevitably travel back in time due to sci-fi shenanigans. Good. I gotta tell you, I think I know how to survive adult T-Rex attack. Just be still. I'm not saying T-Rex that it won't not see you, but it won't see you as a threat, and you are too small to eat. Oh.
Could be.
That could be. I did read, well, this is a fiction book. I think it was like Cretaceous Dawn. It's another fun one, where they had an issue kind of like that, and I think their T-Rex was pretty hungry. They might have been also they were in a group. I don't remember the details. So anyway, just watch out. Because if it's hungry and you seem easy to catch,
Yeah.
you'd still have to watch out.
I think the thing we'd have going for us is we don't smell or look like food they're familiar with. And usually animals don't want to eat the wrong thing and get sick. So like weird stuff. Like that's basically what they say with sharks. When people get bit by sharks, it's not that like we wouldn't be nutritious to a shark. It's that they bite us thinking we're going to be a seal. And they're like, that doesn't taste like seal. I don't want that. So you might get that with a T-Rex. But just like with a T-Rex, you might have the same problem as like a great white shark nibbles on you to see what you taste like.
And a nibble from a T-Rex
Exactly.
is still deadly.
Yeah, exactly. With its tooth this far stabs into your lung, and then you're like, oh, it loses interest and drops you, but you just got stabbed by like 60 knives at once. Huge knives. Broke a bunch of bones. Yeah. So, on that note.
Here's someone's Stegoceratops, horns at the front and the Thagomizer.
Yeah, that's a popular choice.
Does anyone else worry and stress at the idea that there are dinosaurs that existed that we'll never know about as no fossils remain? Yeah, and we've talked about dinosaurs that lived in what was like the mountains in their time. We may never know about.
Yeah.
Just because it was too hard to fossilize.
Because what we find in our mountains now is usually, when we find fossils there, it's usually because it used to be at the bottom of a lake or an ocean or something, and then got like shoved up into the upper mountains. But when things die in the mountains, there isn't anything to really bury them, usually, unless there's a big storm or they die near a river or something. They often don't fossilize. So, yeah, what I do often wonder what the Cretaceous mountainous regions would have been like. And there were mountains back then, like the Appalachian Mountains.
There are probably some weird dinosaurs there.
Yeah.
Which would have been cool. I think about, I think it was our interview with Jack Horner mentioning we may never know, even when it comes to T-Rex, what the how big T-Rex could have gotten or how old T-Rex could have gotten, because we only found a fraction of the T-Rex that lived.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it doesn't really stress me out, but it does kind of bum me out a little bit.
Yeah. Do you think someone will actually recreate a dinosaur? If so, what dinosaur would you want? Well, there is the Chickenosaurus.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the way to recreate a dinosaur is, I think Jack Horner is right about that. He has a book about it, like how to make a dinosaur or something. You take a bird and you mess with its genes so that you turn off the gene. So like basically they've done this to some extent. So they've made a chicken where they deactivated some of the beak making gene and reactivated some less
It's
activated.
got more of a snout.
Yeah, they gave it like a snout, and I think they gave it teeth too. But they haven't figured out how to make a tail.
No, I think they figured out the tail was the sternum last time I read about it.
I don't think they have the tail yet.
Okay.
Because I think they were arguing that they should get funding for it because there are, I don't remember, maybe some like genetic issues with spinal formation that is the same genes in humans basically as it is in birds. So it could help with human uses, which is always good because if it's just for dinosaurs, it's a little harder to fund probably. Yeah, so anyway, long story short, you can mess with a chicken and turn it into a dinosaur or something that looks like a dinosaur, give it a bunch of growth hormone to make it bigger and stuff like that. So that would be cool. And the benefit to doing it that way is if you do it on like a one-on-one situation, you're not going to have a breeding population out in the world because you're not doing gene line edits. You're just messing with which genes get expressed by changing the amount of protein that's introduced after the egg is already formed. So yeah, that's the way to do it. And I think someone will do it. I'm kind of surprised it hasn't happened yet. I sort of thought it would happen around like 2020, 2021, but
it might happen soon.
There are big ethical questions with it, which slows people down. And most paleontologists are interested in finding out what dinosaurs were really like and not just creating something that's like, that's kind of like what we think a dinosaur was like back then, but it doesn't really have any scientific value.
Right. I guess most paleontologists don't want to be John Hammond.
Yeah. A lot of modern paleontologists are paleontologists because they grew up on Jurassic Park, and the entire premise of that is don't do it. So that might...
Maybe, yeah, I never thought about that part of the influence.
Yeah.
Speaking of, what do you think about the Jurassic Park raptors and the real raptors? Well, I really like, in 1993, they were very accurate to what we knew. And like Garrett just said, it inspired an entire generation of paleontologists. I think the Jurassic World movies might be doing the same now.
Yep.
We'll have to see. And that's really cool. But based on what we know about raptors now, we know that they're not like they were in the movie.
Yeah, so what I think about them is they are wrong.
I mean, they're definitely larger than they were. I guess they kind of knew about it then, too. They scaled them up a little bit because it was Deinonychus and then
they got lucky.
Utahraptor. Yeah. Yeah,
because Utahraptor actually does look like that or is around that size, but it's not. It was a little bit too skinny for a Utahraptor. So I like both of them for different reasons. I think Jurassic Park is fantastic. I enjoy all the movies immensely. And like Sabrina said, they were really accurate for 1993. It's just, it does annoy me that they haven't updated the science, and it's been almost 30 years and we're still doing the 1993 version of dinosaurs. But most movie people, and I do too most of the time, give them a pass because it's like there's a whole thing about canon, and it's really a Jurassic Park story more than it is scientific recreation.
Yeah.
And it's also a monster thing, and they have the whole explanation of like, well, these are recreated things, and there's the whole point was that there were errors in the genetic code, so why not make the errors part of the story?
I think with Dominion, what we saw in that preview is that they're at least have the one flashback to, I guess it was the Cretaceous time.
Yep.
And the idea was to make that seem documentary-esque.
Yeah. Yeah, so I like that. It'd be cool to see if they did a raptor there. And then in Jurassic Park 3, bringing it back to the board game, they did have quills. They gave the raptors quills on their heads to make them look a little bit feathery or like allude to that. But then by Jurassic World, they got rid of them again. So they thought about it and then they changed it. Maybe part of the reason was because Jurassic Park 3 wasn't very popular. They decided like, oh no, we messed with it. People didn't like it. Go back to the original. Yeah.
If you had to permanently live in the Cretaceous period, where would you build your home to be safe and have access to food?
Oh, man.
Well, you'd want to be near some sort of water, fresh water.
What could we eat? The cereal grains hadn't evolved yet.
Right.
And that's over half of the human diet. And then all the fruit we eat also doesn't exist back then. So we'd probably have to be hyper-carnivores and just eat dinosaurs. Or other animals, other mammals, maybe.
Maybe some insects.
Yeah. So I guess I'd do like birds do. I'd find a cave, or like,
some kind Something that protects you.
Yeah, something with an opening the size of me to get through.
Right. And nothing larger.
Yeah, like, like if you squeeze through like you're doing a prison break, like a little like square foot rock hole, to squeeze through and try to like maybe hollow it out a little more on the inside, and then, yeah, I guess eat bugs and stuff. It would be terrible. I would not want that to happen. But if I could do like Ark, like video game best case scenario, and I have all these skills that I don't have in real life, I'd build something out of rock and I'd do it far away from the large predators, which maybe that's up in the mountains, but again, we don't really know what was up in the mountains, so I'm not sure. So what do you guys think about Ubi Rajara and the crusade against the German institution? So that is a whole situation. I think, is this in the next episode? Maybe it was in the most recent episode we were talking about this. I think it just came out, the one where we were talking about Ubi Rajara. Basically, we usually say that we want dinosaur fossils to be as close to where they were discovered as possible, because the biggest benefit is that it increases the local community's interest in paleontology, and it also helps to encourage people to conserve the fossils and go out and look for fossils. There's lots of benefits like that, and it increases the sort of scale of paleontology on a global sense. So that's usually where I'm at with it, and so consistent with that, I would say Ubi Rajara should probably be in Brazil. But at the same time, it's just such a mess, because it's like there weren't any, as far as I know, there weren't any Brazilian scientists involved with it, and people do go to other countries all the time and collect fossils and take them out. For example, Zool was collected in Montana and is now at the Royal Ontario Museum, and there aren't a bunch of Americans that are upset about the fact that it went to Canada, because it was exported properly and people were fine with how it was exported. And it seems like with Ubi Rajara, we heard different things from different people. Some people are saying that there were like shortcuts taken and they didn't get the correct paperwork, or they didn't submit it to all the right people, but then they got like one person from like the wrong agency to agree to it, and that's how it got exported, or at least that's what some of the Brazilian activist people are saying. Then on the German side, they're saying, we followed all of the rules, we did everything by the book, and we exported it, and so it's totally fair, and we should get to keep it. And I don't know.
It's definitely tricky.
I know that Cretaceous Research retracted their article, so I assume that it sounds like the authors didn't make a good enough case to Cretaceous Research to get them to keep the paper up, which...
I don't know if they fully retracted it, because they said they'll try to put it up again soon with a reason for taking it down.
You're totally right. Yeah, they didn't retract it. They just took it down. So, yeah, I don't know. If we find out more, I might change my mind. But for now, I think it should probably be in Brazil. Or at least it should go back to Brazil soon. It doesn't... I remember when it first happened, we were like, well, maybe it stays in Germany for a few years and then goes back to Brazil or something. But I don't know. That's a messy one.
Mm-hmm. A 40-foot chicken, that's some drumsticks. Yep. How do you feel about the new T-Rex design in Jurassic World Dominion with feathers and fur? I did like it.
I didn't even remember that.
That was in the preview.
Yeah. I don't remember.
You only remember the parts that you disliked.
Guess
that
so.
Oviraptor ate an egg.
Yeah.
That's it.
I'm just a big jerk.
Yeah. Well, I liked it.
I do remember, overall, I had a very positive reaction to the flashback to the Cretaceous. I thought it looked great, and I really liked the updated animals. But then it ended with the Oviraptor, and so that just left a bad taste.
I guess so. You have to watch the full movie, and then maybe you'll notice more of these details.
Yeah.
What do we specialize in paleontology? I'll let Garrett take his sip.
You don't want to answer?
Oh, so. Well, I don't think I specialize in anything.
Neither of us specialize in paleontology, really. We're basically...
We specialize in reading the papers and talking about them.
Yeah, so we're journalists, so we read a ton of papers all the time and then figure out what's going on.
and do the interviews.
Yeah.
But if you could specialize in something,
Oh man, I guess
it's too broad.
Well, again, it would be like, I think we were talking about it earlier, and I said I would focus on like the statistical side of things, where it would be like, figuring out how these family trees. Because one thing I've been wanting to put on our website for a long time, and I think I might finally do it. I'm starting to work up to it. Is making a cladogram of like all the dinosaurs,
Ooh.
or at least all the dinosaur families. I just love the evolution side of dinosaurs are the most interesting to me, and how they're all related. So that would be the phylogenetics would be where I would be at for sure. Yeah.
Cool. New book idea: How to Survive Insert Dinosaur Period. That's a good one.
That does sound fun. That sounds really fun. We should try that.
Only T-Rex except giant burb.
Nice.
Cool.
Well, I think we're out of questions, which is good timing because we're almost at 2 hours.
Oh yeah.
And
That went by fast.
It's lunchtime or breakfast time for everybody who wants
Or
bacon
dinner.
and eggs.
Yeah.
Or dinner. Midnight
Yeah,
snack.
bacon and eggs sound good. It's just something.
Yeah. It's breakfast time in Hawaii, maybe.
There you go.
All right. Well,
Thanks for joining us. This was a lot of fun.
yeah. Thank you. See you around. Check out our podcast if you don't already listen. I Know Dino. And thank you to all our patrons for getting us to our 200 patron mark. We could not have done the show without you. We wouldn't have these fancy new windscreens,
Oh yeah.
or not windscreens, pop filters. We used to have windscreens, but they make us sound better without you guys. So thank you so much, and head over to our Discord if you want to keep talking.
Yep.
All right.